Texas Math Mundo audience. Today we have a real treat in store for us. We have the 2014 Calculator State Champion, the 2013 Number Sense State Champion and Science State Champion, along with the highest physics score in Class 5A, Mr. Wesley Runnels from the Science Engineering Magnet in Dallas, a proud Eagle. A three-time state champion, Mr. Wesley Runnels, right ahead. Let me take a moment and ask you that if you enjoy this material, it would really support me if you would hit the subscription button and the notification bell, if you would smash that like button, and if you leave a comment below. If you enjoy this, hitting the subscription button would really help. I really appreciate that. So Mr. Wesley Runnels, three-time state champion, right ahead. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Audience, we have a three-time state champion in the house, Mr. Wesley Runnels. In 2014, he was the state 5A calculator applications champion, and in 2013, he was the Number Sense and the Science state champion, scoring the top physics score that year. He is he is from the Science Engineering Magnet in Dallas, Texas, a proud Eagle. Mr. Wesley Runnels, welcome aboard.
Cool. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And I want to say this. This is groundbreaking for the channel because this is the first time I have an individual of African American descent on this show. So I'm really, really very interested in the perspective that you're going to provide. So I want to thank you again.
Of course.
Great. So hey, let's start off with how are you doing?
You mean just in general in life?
Yeah. How's it going?
Honestly, it's going quite well. I'm enjoying things. I can't really complain too much. Life is pretty good for me overall.
You've been handling
I don't know if you want any more details. Sorry, what?
You've been handling the pandemic okay?
Yeah. I mean, obviously things are kind of messed up in the world, but personally, I'm getting by just fine. Not like huge disruptions across my life. I haven't caught anything yet, so I'm also pretty happy about that. But yeah, it's been pretty good for me. I definitely can't complain.
Great. Good to hear that. I'm going to ask, so what are you doing? Are you working? Are you still in school, career? What's going on in that area professionally?
Yeah, so I am working. So I've been working at this company, a very small tech startup called Einblick Analytics. Our company does like data visualization and data analysis. It's a tool that other companies can use, but it's very new. We started, I think, just about 2 years ago, maybe a month or two more or less. and I joined about a year and a half ago, right after finishing my master's. So this company was spun out of research at MIT and Brown. So while I was doing my master's at MIT, my lab that I was doing my thesis with spun out into this startup, and so I joined immediately afterwards. So I'm familiar with, or when I joined, I was already familiar with several of the people, including the CEO, who was actually my thesis advisor. So it's been pretty cool. Things seem to be going quite well. I mean, it's still very early stage, so there's a lot of things happening, but I'm enjoying it so far. No plans on leaving or anything anytime soon. It's pretty smooth sailing so far.
Wow, sounds interesting. And where are you based? Where's home right now?
Yeah, so I live in the Boston area, specifically Cambridge, right between MIT and Harvard. So I've been living in this area, I guess, since I left high school, or since I started college at MIT. So I guess since 2014. Our specific office is in this Kendall Square area of Cambridge, which is a hotspot for a lot of biotech companies, but also tech companies and startups. Like, for example, Google has an office down the street from where our office is. Although, during the pandemic, in-person work, in-office work is a little bit shaky. So, especially recently, people haven't been going to the office that much. But I live pretty close, so I do go in sometimes. Although the last month, not really.
Okay. Wow. So they're very flexible with where you
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
work.
it's fully flexible. It's like a hybrid model. People can just go in whenever they want. Some people go in most of the time, although the last couple of weeks, well, it's been holidays, but the last couple of days, very few people have gone in, maybe one or two. And then before that, though, we regularly get maybe half or more of the company in there on some days.
Okay. Wow. I'm sure work takes the lion's share of your time often, but when you're not engaged in work, what are your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, so it depends on, I guess my hobbies tend to fluctuate over time. I guess one consistent thing has been I really like various kinds of games. So I've been playing chess since I was probably 4 or 5 or so. So I still play regularly online. It kind of depends when I will actually study it seriously or not. There's actually a chess tournament I wanted to go to this weekend, but I don't think I don't think I'll be attending anymore because the pandemic. But chess is a regular thing. I used to play a lot of poker as well. That was really cool, and in particular because I think probability and game theory are pretty interesting. So poker fits in quite well with that. There's some games I play with friends sometimes, just various ones. Then I guess I've kind of gotten phased with music. So more recently, I've been looking into playing the piano. We'll begin taking lessons very soon, actually, starting this weekend. But previously, I played the guitar for some time. A couple other things. I spent quite a while learning languages as well. So studied French and Spanish, a little bit of Japanese as well, and got French and Spanish in particular. I spent quite a while learning and got to a decent level, although I'm quite rusty now. But I've been picking that up a little bit again. I mean, there's other things, reading, listening to music. It kind of depends, but I try to keep a number of things going.
Awesome. But you really engage yourself in intellectual pursuits, and hey, I'm a chess player too, man. We got to get a game in one day.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
sure.
music, the chess, the languages, that's fascinating. Wow, you really keep yourself engaged. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so I'm going to ask, you're a three-time state champion in the highest classification at the time in three different events. That's very amazing. So I'm kind of curious about the forces that shaped you. So I'm going to ask you, where are you from, born and raised, and what is your cultural heritage?
Yeah, sure. So technically, I'm from Irving, Texas, which is like a sub or it's in the Dallas area. But I only lived there for a few months. So I actually lived in DeSoto, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, south of Dallas. for essentially all of my life, except for the first maybe 6 months or so. So I grew up there. I went to school there for almost all of the time I was in grade school. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm from DeSoto. That's what I always say. That is what I call home, and my dad still lives there, for example. And then cultural heritage wise, my dad is African American or Black. He grew up in the Dallas area, not in DeSoto, but in Dallas actually. And he's lived there for much of his life, though not the whole time. And then my mom is Japanese. She was an immigrant from Japan. Um, so I grew up with some exposure to Japanese culture. Actually, both my parents are fluent in both English and Japanese. Um, so, I mean, I don't speak Japanese, unfortunately. That's why I kind of want to learn, dip my toes in there a little bit. But yeah, so I'm of mixed race, mixed descent, whatever you want to call it. I usually say half Black, half Japanese. Yeah, and I'm from DeSoto. That's what I say.
All right, all right. DeSoto's near Dallas, you say?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, 20 or 30-minute drive south of Dallas.
Oh, okay.
A suburb, not too much notable about it, honestly.
On that cultural, multicultural, African American, Japanese, I'm so happy to have this perspective on the show. It's something that I need to include more of and increase the diversity of who I interview. So I'm so appreciative of you being here. When did you realize that you had a talent for mathematics?
Well, my memory is a little fuzzy. I want to say when I was pretty young, maybe at least when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9. I remember being in like gifted programs as a kid. It was nice in my elementary schools. I would put in more advanced programs. So I knew by then that I was advanced at least. And math classes were pretty easy in general. My parents also encouraged me to learn outside of school some. I don't remember to what extent they actually taught me or like what they taught me. I know, I mean, I wasn't doing, like math like all the time or anything outside of school. My parents weren't really like helicopter parents or anything, but I know that from a pretty early age, um, I was pretty strong at math. Now, not necessarily, like super, super strong, but I was definitely in the advanced uh, percentiles of the people, my peers. But I don't know. Also, I don't know how much that says because I think the schools I was going to weren't known at all for having strong math programs. But I was definitely advanced at least for my environment.
Okay, wow, wow. So what was your introduction to competitive mathematics?
Yeah, so I think essentially it was a freshman year of high school. There might have I might have done something like really minimal in like eighth grade or something, but I think essentially there was nothing. I want to say ninth grade. I don't even remember if there was some like tiny competition in eighth grade or something. But essentially, yeah, ninth grade, and I didn't do math counts or anything like that. I didn't even know what it was, so I've never done that. And when I joined my school, which actually is the school I go to is not in DeSoto, even though I lived in DeSoto. It's in Dallas proper. Um, so when I joined, I remember not knowing what extracurriculars I wanted to do. And actually, the first thing that I tried, I think, was like debate or something. So math actually wasn't even on my radar, even though I knew I was good at math. It wasn't something that I immediately tried to join. So maybe like a couple months into high school, I want to say, is when I actually decided to join the math teams. I remember like taking my first number sense test, and I remember it not being too good. I don't remember the score I got, but I don't know if I was better than average or whatever off the first test, but I had nothing near what my results were a few years down the line.
State champion.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't doing any of that back in freshman year. So yeah, let's say probably sometime first semester freshman year.
Okay, okay. Who inspired you
In general.
Shape your value system, inspired you, maybe some teachers, your parents. Who are your inspirations?
Ah, you know, actually, I think I got this question when I interviewed for my high school because we actually had an interview, and I think I just made up some answer. I don't even remember. I would actually say that there isn't like a single concrete inspiration. I don't have a good answer to this question.
Oh, okay.
Nobody actually comes to mind. I mean, I think in general, I think I just try to be a good person, um, trying to cause much harm. I'm not a terribly aggressive person, so it's not terribly difficult for me. But yeah, I mean, my parents are both good people. So I think they raised me pretty well. Um, but I don't think that they're like, you know, the kind of role models that many other people with really good parents tend to have. I mean, they're perfectly fine. I've always just kind of done my own thing, and it's worked out for me so far. And there aren't any, you know, like celebrities or presidents or political figures or any actors or whatever that I really look up to. I think in general, I just try to do what I think is best, which tends to work out.
Well, Wesley, I'm going to say this because I think your story is very unique, and I really like that you come from a multicultural background, and I think you are going to serve as an inspiration to many. So I want to ask, you went through the MIT and the elite institutions on the planet. What are your thoughts about underrepresented minorities in STEM, and how do you think we can best increase those numbers?
Yeah, so that's a tough question. Yeah, so um,
Well, tell
I
us about your
think
journey. How was it going
yeah,
through that?
yeah. So okay, my journey is a little bit slightly convoluted. So I started off kindergarten and first grade in DeSoto, local school a few minutes away from my home. Then I spent 2 years actually at a private school in North Dallas called St. Mark's. So this private school was pretty good. I'm pretty sure I had to take a test to get in. So I guess I was able to pass that test, so that was good. But I might have been the only underrepresented minority, or close to it. Maybe there were a couple others there, although I mean, it wasn't like a huge school or anything. At least not in my grade. There's maybe 20 of us. I don't remember any other African Americans. I mean, this is also when I was 6 or 7, so I don't remember a lot. But I remember, it was a very distinct demographic composition relative to where I grew up in DeSoto. I want to say my schools were, upwards of 80% Black, with some Hispanic thrown in, very little, of anything else. And then at St. Mark's, the private school that I went for a couple of years, it was probably close to the opposite. I might have been the only Black person there. Although I don't remember the exact numbers, whatever, but I definitely had that impression. Then I left St. Mark's and I went back to my local schools. I guess in third grade. It's also a little convoluted because for some reason St. Mark's has this rule where I had to repeat first grade. So actually, to kindergarten, first grade in DeSoto, first and second grade at St. Mark's. Then in third grade, I went back. Then I skipped the fourth grade, so I caught back up. And then from fifth grade through eighth grade, I was in DeSoto still. Schools had about the same demographic composition, probably 85% Black, something like that. And then in ninth grade, I went to SEM, which is what we call it, the Science and Engineering Magnet. So SEM, it's also a little bit convoluted because it's one of 6 schools in the same building. So there's 6 different magnet schools at this Town View Center. So I went to the Science and Engineering one. I think we actually had a lot of Hispanics, maybe upwards of 50%, 50, 55%, if I remember correctly, maybe 45, I don't remember exactly. And then the rest was actually quite diverse, pretty mixed. But then other schools had very different compositions, although I don't know the exact numbers by any means. So yeah, I started off basically at a very early age at primarily Black schools, in a district that was not very good. Then I spent 2 years at a private school that seemed quite good. Then I spent the next 5 years back in my home district, which was not very good. And then I spent 4 years at a magnet school, based heavily in science and engineering. but had a much different racial composition, but wasn't like typical. It wasn't like MIT, for example, or similarly universities.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. And did you feel that that your journey was impacted by your multicultural background at all, or?
Um, I think not a ton actually. I think well, okay, things would look a lot different if I were born in a, you know, if I were born in a family, or sorry, more of like a, if my path went through purely just bad schools, it would have been looked a lot different. I'm very lucky to have gone to um, SEM, my high school, where I had a lot of opportunity to grow. Um, but also, I'm lucky that growing up, I had a lot of teachers who were willing to make special accommodations for me when I showed capabilities advanced or more advanced than what was offered normally. For example, in I think in seventh grade, they let me take eighth grade algebra. So I was only seventh grader taking that. And then in the eighth grade, they let me take a class, a geometry class at the high school, um, which I don't think has ever happened. Or if it has happened, it's very rare. So I actually got bused in the morning from the high school after my geometry class to my middle school. So, I mean, did I need to do that? Not necessarily. I might have turned out the same. But I did have a lot of teachers. I don't remember all the names, unfortunately, but I had a lot of teachers who were willing to kind of push me a little bit more when I showed that potential. And maybe, for a lot of kids out there, they don't have that same opportunity, or they don't get to go to SEM or a similar institution that does have, an abundance of resources, basically, to push the kids to their fullest potential. But I haven't personally, like had severe adversity due to my race. Like, I haven't had people lambasting me with racist threats or whatever. That's been relatively smooth, I would say. It doesn't feel like my race necessarily held me back or anything. Whether in grade school, high school, or college, it's been pretty fine. I don't think anyone has kind of removed resources from me or allocated resources to other people because of my race or anything like that. If anything, I kind of stand out a little bit, so people do take more notice of that. Although, I mean, even at MIT, I don't feel like that's really been too much of a problem, too notable. There are quite a number of people of all kinds of races at MIT, for example. So that's been totally fine. But in high school, I mean, it was totally fine. The only thing I remember is that I definitely stood out, especially like for example among state champions. I was definitely a rare breed. But I don't think anyone actually ever said anything to me, or if they did, nothing that I can remember. So couldn't have been too notable.
Thank you for that insight. Because, like I said, your perspective is very fascinating, very unique. Thank you for that insight. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
I do want to get to UIL, the 2013-2014 season, and the Science Engineering Magnet School. Uh, do you remember your teammates and coaches? Were you all a cohesive group? And would you like to make a shout out to any of them?
Yeah, I'll make a shout out for sure. I do remember many of them, even though it's been upwards of 7 years. And actually, I think my best season was 2012, 2013, my junior year. I think in senior year, I got a little bit of senioritis, so I didn't perform as well. But it wouldn't, nothing would have been possible without my teacher, Joshua Newton. He was an amazing teacher. Actually, I think in Dallas, he won Teacher of the Year at least once. Amazing teacher. He put a ton of time into supporting the UIL program, and he did all sorts of things. I mean, it's actually quite incredible because before my time, I guess for my freshman year and before, we had a UIL program, but nothing terribly substantial. I don't think we had sent anyone to state in many years. Probably over a decade. If we did, it might have been for like spelling bee or something like that. But our math team, it was basically I don't even think we're making it to region, or maybe like one person every once in a while. So because of him, we were able to get so many resources and go to all these different competitions to get the practice and the necessary He talked to a bunch of coaches. I don't know exactly all the stuff he did, but he just got an immense amount of resources and provided for us. That was incredible.
Mr. Josh
For sure.
Newton.
Josh Newton, yeah, Joshua Newton. Absolutely incredible teacher. Then as far as he was the main guy behind the UIL math stuff. All of the math events. As far as science goes, I guess this is a math show. As far as science goes, actually, I think the students were in charge of that. We had science teachers accompanying us. I don't remember anyone with the presence that Miss Newton had. And then as far as teammates, we kind of got going really after I got there. So there aren't really like predecessors with comparable performance who went to state before me, actually. There were a couple of people maybe like the year above who started going to state with us in like my sophomore, junior years, or my junior year maybe. So above me was Dan Wynn. I think he was on the math team, and a couple others, John Law on the calculator team, I believe. And then, but the main people I think were my year and below. So there's another Dan Wynn who actually is the other Dan Wynn's cousin. There is Morali, who's a year below me. He was very strong in all the math events, I believe. There was Sir John. Sir John, I believe, won calculator the year after I did. He was also a year below me. There's a lot of other people. I remember Austin on the calculator team, Lord on the calculator team. There's a ton of people. And then, actually, I think this is after I graduated, but there was another guy who won state. And I guess he kind of continued the trend. I think his name was Ravi. I think he was 4 years below me though. So I guess I didn't I was never on his team. But yeah, we did keep going a little bit. Also, Andrew Merrill. Andrew Merrill was very strong in a lot of the events too. So yeah, those are all the people I remember. Not all of them. There's quite a few more. But those are the people who I think performed the best overall. But I have to give all the credit to Newton, to Mr. Newton. He was.
I hope this reaches his ears.
Yeah, he's actually incredible. It wouldn't have been possible without him. That's 100% sure.
Awesome. That's a great shout out, by the way. It's a great shout out. So, what was the practice regiment like? Were you working mostly solo? Did y'all meet after school often? And did you go to many tournaments? What were your study habits?
Yeah, well, it's been a while, so I don't remember a lot. But I definitely studied a ton. So, as I said, things weren't really formalized, or not very much, until after I got there. So I think when I got there, we had a number sense club, maybe like once a week, but it was pretty informal. And then we might have had like a math or calculator club. I don't remember exactly. They might have actually already had weekly meetings, but I'm actually not sure if that's the case. But probably starting my sophomore year, we definitely had a weekly meeting for all of the major math events. So I think on Tuesdays we had number sense. So we'd spend an hour after school. I think we probably took a test or two and then like discussed solutions and tricks and stuff like that. Calculator on Wednesday, math on Thursday. And then as far as tournaments or competitions go, we went to quite a few. I think we already had gone to them my freshman year already. Some local ones or whatever. But we probably started going to more after we started doing well in them. Mr. Newton, he definitely he was the main guy I think driving us to go to all of these. So I remember going to a lot of competitions, and they're great practice, especially for getting used to the pressure. Now, as far as at-home study, I personally studied a lot, and I also tried to do a lot to help the team out, especially in the later years when we actually had like really good teams and several strong members that could form like a solid team, even at the state level. So I remember taking a lot of number sense tests. I did a lot of studying for all the events. Took a lot of tests for calculator and math too. yeah, I mean, I just regular practice. I was something I was passionate about, so it came somewhat naturally. And then I also got a ton of knowledge online. There were a couple forums actually, but there was one in particular, the Texas Math Forum, which
Yes, I
seems to
remember
have
that.
died pretty
Yeah.
much, unfortunately. But that was an absolute gold mine of stuff. So there were people from other schools that I met through there. There was a lot of solutions in the past for, let's say old exams or questions that we encountered in competitions. Ton of resources. I mean, I don't remember all the resources besides that. I mean, a lot of stuff I think we kind of just figured out as well. I mean, there are a lot of topics, especially in math, right? The math competition where you have to know a bunch of theorems or blah blah blah. Number sense, a lot, ton of tricks. Some of them we could figure out. Some of them, we found elsewhere. But that forum was an absolute gold mine. So I spent a ton of time on there.
I remember it, and a lot of people remember it fondly. I think the guy's name was Tony Potter from San Antonio Helotes. But yes,
Yeah,
for
Mr.
that
Potter.
period
Yeah.
of time, a lot of people. I'm kind of curious because you were a science state champion. Were you mainly self-driven in science?
I think yeah, pretty much I was self-driven science too. We didn't have. Well, I think technically we did have a science club, but I think I started it actually. I'm not 100% sure, and um, I don't think anyone else did ever meddled in science while I was there. Um, so I spent a ton of time self studying. There might have been a couple other people who did somewhat strongly, but like Andrew that I mentioned earlier, um, he might have meddled actually 1 year, but I don't think anyone. We were much more robust in math and science for sure.
So I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with that. Wow. So, but you were a science champion, number sense champion, calculator champion. What calculator did you use?
I used two calculators, and I think you essentially have to win, or maybe even to medal. So I had a TI 89 for general usage. Um, I haven't used one in a long time, so I'm sure I'm not that good at it anymore. And then I used for the number cruncher section, I used a an HP calculator. I think they're essentially not even made anymore, or if they are, they're rare. I don't even remember the name, but the one thing that was really unique, well, it's a really small calculator, and it's really, really good at quickly entering numbers. It uses RPN or reverse Polish notation. Um, I think if you want to be like at least back in my day, you essentially had to use one of these HP calculators or something similar to do the number cruncher fast enough to have time for everything else. So I actually also spent a lot of time practicing HP and entering like the number crunchers because those do get pretty ridiculous after a while. Um, yeah, so I used a TI-89 and then some HP calculator, some HP like 680 or something like that. I don't know the exact model.
All right, all right. So, what is your most memorable moment or moments from those UIL years?
Um, that's a tough question. Probably, um, it might have been when I won number sense junior year. Um, so actually, so the coaches know the results beforehand, and so Mr. Newton he asked me if I wanted to know the results, and I said no, I don't. I'll just wait for the ceremony. And so I remember them calling the places from sixth, I think, up through first, and they called second, who was Bobby Shen, who is like a very basically a legend. I think the year before he like swept all the events and got first or something similar.
From
So he got second.
Dallas.
Yeah, yeah. So when he got second, I knew I did pretty well, barring some catastrophe. I was worried actually that maybe there was like potential for a tie or anything, but no, I actually won. I think that was the first time I ever won anything at state. Um, and then I don't know, just like the surprise, the joy, knowing that I actually won, all the hard work paying off. I think I heard him also say like I heard him say something. I don't remember what it was, but it was kind of a surreal moment. And Number Sense was my favorite event and my best event for sure during those UIL years. So something I still remember that I still cherish. I mean, there were a lot of other moments too, for sure. Winning science was awesome as well. And there were a lot of like other smaller competitions that I went to, meeting people. That was also pretty awesome, along with like non UIL competitions. So Team SCA, for example, that was a big one. I don't know if it's still around. I think it is still around. But we went to TMSCA State every year. Then there were like other math competitions we did. Those were also really cool. But yeah, I guess I have to say the number sense was number one, the winning number sense state.
Well, Wesley, I paid attention. I paid attention. I've done this for 20 years, and I pay attention to the competition. And I just know how ridiculous the caliber of competition is. And for you to have won 3 state champions at 5A at the highest level at the time, I'm in awe of that. I'm just simply in awe. Now, I really am, though, because I know how crazy it is. And for you to be top guy in 3 different categories, it's ridiculous, man. So I'm in awe. How does it feel to be a state champion? How does that feel, man?
I mean, it certainly feels good. I was definitely very happy, still am. Um, when I think about those years and what we were able to accomplish, I still think it's incredible considering, especially where we started, how we were basically not even on the map. And then our school ended up producing several state champions. And actually, the year after me, they won state as a team, which is the first time ever. The fact we were able to go from essentially nothing to producing multiple state champions and being, we'd go to competitions, people would know who we were and would, come up and talk to us. It feels awesome. I think it's one of the some of the greatest memories I have had in my entire life, for sure. Just to I don't know. It's cool to have people just kind of look up to you and just want to talk to you because they know who you are and they know all the hard work that's gone into it, and friends you make. It's just awesome. And the state championship, winning that, it's just like it's the ultimate realization of this whole journey. It's awesome.
Awesome, man. To stand at the mountaintop like that, that's so awesome. Where do you keep those gold medals?
Yeah, so I believe I have 4. I gave one to Mr. Newton actually. I think he has one because I don't think the teachers get medals.
Nope.
And I had to give credit to another teacher who suggested it, and I was totally on board. Because honestly, he deserved it. I mean, he was the machine behind the engine behind all this stuff. So he has one, and that I think was like my physics medal maybe. The other 3 gold medals I just have at home with my dad. He keeps them somewhere.
What an incredible gesture to give that medal to Mr. Newton. That's an incredible gesture.
Actually, it wasn't my idea at first, but I think it was a really good idea. So I was happy to do it.
But it was your medal to give, so that's great.
Yeah, no, that's true.
All right, we had ourselves a little internet issue, but we're back on the horse again, so we're back on it, okay? I appreciate it. So last thing I asked is, so you went to MIT. What degree did you earn?
Yeah, so I got a double major in math and computer science at MIT for undergrad. And then afterwards, I stayed for MIT's MEng program, so Masters of Engineering. I did that in computer science as well. Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. Do you feel that your UIL journey helped you on your college and career path?
Yeah, certainly. So I learned a lot of stuff doing UIL that better prepared me for college stuff, I guess. I mean, just constant exposure to new math, especially for the math competition. I always called it math, which is so generic. But the one that's not calculated at number sense. There are a lot of interesting theorems and stuff. Just thinking in that, in different ways. And also, after sophomore year, probably, I started looking at the national competitions. So the AMC, the AME, and beyond. So I never made it to USMO, although I got really close senior year.
Oh, wow.
But also doing AMC and AME practice So I did the AME both years, junior and senior year. That also exposed me to a lot of math. And I think, once you have UIL math down and you also start looking at the AMC and the AME, you just reach like a level of math, like a kind of some sort of intuition that I think really made me feel prepared for university level math. So I started off like actually like skipping some courses at MIT, starting off pretty advanced at MIT because of that. Um, yeah, I would say without competition math, I mean, I'd probably be fine if I still went to MIT. I mean, I think competition math definitely helped me get into MIT. That's for sure. Especially, devoting as much time as I did to it and performing well in the end definitely helped me out on my application. But even, beyond just getting in, for being ready to study more advanced stuff, I think it was a godsend for sure.
Great, 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 great. So, have you ever returned to the Science Engineering Magnet School in Dallas, or is that part of your distant past?
I briefly returned, but I think it was during the summer. So I wanted to visit during the school year, but I think like timing wise, it didn't like really add up. Um, like I wasn't really home when school was in session and vice versa. Um, and then after a couple of years, I think some teachers started leaving, and most people that I knew graduated, so there wasn't much incentive. So unfortunately, a lot of the people there I haven't seen, although I have seen a few people. I actually just met up with Mr. Newton, the teacher that I mentioned.
Oh,
Yeah, my best friend from high school, and we got dinner with him when I was in Dallas a couple weeks ago, or maybe like 1 week ago actually. So in that sense, it's not completely in distant past. Um, but yeah, I haven't really actually been to the school to like talk to the students and stuff like that.
that's awesome. How just a week or so ago you had dinner with Mr. Newton and a whole high school buddy. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess one other thing, although I didn't go to the school again, I did when I did come back home, um, at like for like winter break or something. I met up with the math team a couple times. So in that sense, yeah, I did still keep in contact with them. There have been a few other people on the math team that I have seen over the last few years here and there. Yeah.
Well, hey, you're legendary, so it must be very it must be a treat if you go back and visit the mat team every once in a while or whatever. So that's great. That's great. Uh,
Yeah.
I want to ask a couple of retrospective questions. So first of all, what do you value the most about that UIL journey?
Um, so that's actually difficult. There's a lot of things. For one, I think it absolutely changed my life. As I said, I don't know. I think doing UIL and competition math in general really made a strong case for me to actually get into MIT and other universities as well. So if I hadn't done them, maybe I would have never gone to MIT or a comparable university. I mean, possibly, but I'm not sure. So that's possible. It may have completely changed the course of my life in that sense. And if I didn't do them, but I still went to MIT or wherever, I probably wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have had as easy of a time or as smooth of sailing. I mean, not everything was smooth sailing at MIT. There were so many very difficult courses. But I think I would have had a much harder time probably at MIT or in university in general. I don't know exactly where I would ended up. I think doing those really put me on a good course in life, and I'm pretty happy with where I am now. So that was invaluable. Also, um, it's the fact that we were able to produce so much from so little. To go from essentially not on the radar at all of anyone to being one of the greatest teams in the state and producing multiple state champions, and all of this essentially through sheer will, um, and very quickly, over the course of a couple of years. It really showed me that if you really put your mind to something, if you have the opportunity to do it, even if it seems like something very distant, very difficult to do, sometimes these things are possible. And I often, whenever I think of like UIL in high school, I definitely like kind of sit back and think like, wow, I'm actually kind of surprised that it was possible that I and my teammates and my coach that we were all able to do this and accomplish all these things. And it kind of gives me inspiration for difficult challenges in the future. I think that's like a very, it's a lesson I've internalized very deeply now, having lived through it and knowing what is actually possible out there. I mean, there's the schools, I remember like Dulles and Clements in particular, that were absolute powerhouses in Texas. And, every year they would send, multiple kids, many kids, like, full teams. They'd almost always, win all the events. And I think it probably, I felt this way too, that it seemed like an insurmountable lead that they had, not only, did they already have a history of success, so they already knew what they were doing, but they had coaches and teachers, and alumni from those schools that knew all the tricks of the trade, blah, blah, blah. And not to mention, they'd probably been studying from middle school, or maybe even elementary school, like doing math counts and stuff. And this is something that I never had experience with. As I said, I didn't get competition math until sometime in ninth grade. So the fact that we were able to not only overcome the deficit of not having a program, really in place that was very solid, and not having any, past record of alumni, even going to state, much less winning state. And then also not having the background of kids who had done math counts and similar competitions, or going on to, USAMO and similar competitions beyond that. The fact that we were able to still, produce several state champions and win state as a team, I guess, although the year after I was there, it definitely it makes me feel like some mountains that seem unreachable, actually, you can climb them if you really, really put your mind to it.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. And I have a very, very intimate knowledge of that Dulles Clements, and their middle school programs are full of math counts, and I applaud them. But definitely beautiful stuff how you all, and you in particular, were a primary or integral part of that science engineering magnet development. So that's awesome. Very awesome. So the next question, I love this question. It's a very important question. What advice do you have for young students? You can address underrepresented minorities if you like, or just any student in general. What advice would you offer any young student coming across this interview?
What age of student?
Well, how about a younger version of yourself in high school, like 8th, 9th grade, trying to get into UIL?
Interesting. I mean, there's probably a lot of things I could say. I would say it's very possible to do great things. So keep that in mind. I would love to give a lot of concrete advice too on like how we learned a bunch of stuff. I mean, I would say at first probably focus on one event. If I had to pick one, either like the event your school is strongest at, or if there's no particular strong event, whichever one you feel most comfortable with, and kind of get solid in that first. So that's what I did. I really focused on number sense when I started. And once I broke the number sense, then I felt comfortable enough to kind of go to the other events and start dipping my toes in. And now some of the other events, they can be difficult for somebody, especially like a freshman or sophomore. This is not math, but science, for example. There's just some questions there's no chance that you can actually approach them if you don't have, like AP physics or something comparable, right? But in math, like in number sense, which is what I started with, most of the questions you can approach even as a younger student. Now, number sense also is a little tricky because there's a lot of, no pun intended, but tricks that you actually need to know. Mm-hmm. So there's a wealth of knowledge that you need to have, like a bank, and it's very difficult to produce that if you don't have a resource. So maybe number sense these days, without like the Texas Math Forum or something comparable, maybe it's a little difficult to get into that. I would also, so maybe I would suggest the math one. I mean, they're all kind of complicated. Calculator also, you need the right calculators, and you need some of the knowledge of the geometry and stuff. I would say definitely look online or look for other people, whether from other schools or other coaches or whatever, to look for resources. I was helped so much by Texas Math Forum and other forums as well. Just talking to other competitors. My coach, Mr. Newton, he did he had a wealth of knowledge too, amassed from his own research, from talking to coaches, all like the number sense tests we took, all of like the resources online that we found, these are absolutely integral for us to know what to do for the tests, like all the number sense tricks that, some of them we had to derive on our own, but many of them that, I think it's impossible basically to do it yourself. You need to look externally and try to, even maybe collaborate with other schools that are also trying to get their programs running. If you want to have like a good chance. I don't know the best online resources at this point. I mean, for me, the Texas Math forums were absolutely incredible. So maybe the resource is still there. Maybe actually, if it's still online, I think somebody actually tried to kind of keep it as a permanent reference. Maybe you can go through the logs there and look at some of the number sense tricks or math theorems and stuff that you need to know. Those are absolutely integral. But certainly it is possible, even if you're not, at one of those schools that are perennial favorites. Ideally, also you have teammates that you can collaborate with, compete with. I mean, not only for learning the tests and what you need to know, but the motivation as well is huge, right? It's really difficult to do it alone unless you're just extremely, extremely passionate. But even then, with teammates, you guys compete with each other. It's really fun competing as a team, and pushing each other to do your best. I mean, there's like a million things I would like to say, but it is possible to do well, and you don't have to win state. I mean, obviously, not everyone can win state. There's only a few every year, and whoever shows up the best on that day. I mean, probably some of my medals, like I wouldn't win them more than half the time. It's just that on that day I had the best day. Second place in math or first and 10th might be 10 or 20 points apart, and that ultimately comes down to the day, right? So the state championship, it is really nice, but not everyone can win it, and it's kind of a crapshoot. But I would say you can do really well, and you can do a lot better than you probably think if you put your mind to it. Try to find good resources and just work at it. I mean, it's tough. I put a lot of time into it, but it's absolutely worth it. One of the best decisions I made was to join my first team, my number friends team, and to stick with it. It was awesome.
It comes across that you really enjoyed that. I really liked it. And some great, solid, concrete advice, Wesley. That's awesome advice. Great. So, what does the future hold for you? 3-time state champion, Mr. Wesley Runnels. What does the future hold for you?
That's a tough question. I struggle to answer that outside of interviews. So for now, I mean, I'm working at an early stage startup. I guess I'm working in software engineering, right? So I'll probably be doing this for some time. Although if I have another idea that I think is better, then I'm willing to pivot as well. But for now, I'm happy where I am, enjoying life. Hopefully, my career will continue to along a reasonable path. And there's like a lot of things I would like to do in my life as well. I already spent some time studying languages, but I would love to live in a foreign country at some point. Something I've never done for an extended period of time is to live in a foreign place. I would love to travel around the world, meet people from different cultures, immerse myself around the world, and kind of get to know what life has to offer, basically. Career-wise, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. I wasn't actually planning on being a software engineer. I did computer science, but I have more of a background in math and like machine learning and stuff. So maybe I'll get back into that someday as well. And maybe someday I would like to start my own company. That's definitely a possibility. It's not something that I'm planning on doing in the near future, but I'll see where it goes. But once you get out of high school, things become a lot less clear in terms of the direction you're supposed to go in life. Like when I was in high school, I wanted to win state, and then once I won state, I wanted to win state again, and then get into college and stuff. Yeah, very concrete goals. Once you get to college, I guess you want to major and stuff, whatever. But then you get a job, and there's not really like a concrete path, except for maybe like the corporate ladder, or if you're in politics, you want to climb the politics ladder, whatever. That's not really something that I'm in the midst of. so I don't have like a very concrete thing. But I just want to enjoy life, learn a lot of different things, meet people from different cultures, immerse myself in what the world has to offer, and hopefully one day I'll be able to make or produce or support something that improves the lives of a lot of people. It's unclear exactly what that would be at this point. I would love to do something with education potentially. I've always thought, based on how the impact my teacher had on me, my teachers, many of them, the impact that they had on me was incredible. So part of me wanted to be a teacher for a little bit. I mean, I'm probably never going to be a high school teacher um, or something similar, but maybe do something in education. Maybe creating a company for education or doing, if I were very rich, some philanthropy there. I don't know what the future has to hold exactly, but that would be awesome because I think there's a lot of untapped potential out there. There's a lot of kids out there um, that aren't aware of what they're capable of, and I'm certainly one of them. So I would love to do something there, but I mean, um, I'll have to see where life takes me. Basically, hopefully, I have a long road ahead
Well, one thing's for
with a lot of
certain.
good stuff.
One thing's for certain. You've prepared yourself. You've armed yourself with so much knowledge, great degree from MIT, and so I'm excited to see what the future may hold. I know at your age, there's still a lot of uncertainty, but there's a lot of life ahead of you, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for you. I would guess it's pretty bright, but that's a story to be written. That's a story to be written, and I wish you the best luck, right?
Thanks, man. Yeah, yeah. I certainly hope so, but only thing I can do is wait and see.
So, any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
Um, well, I'm happy to do the interview for sure. I think it'd been cool to see interviews when I was in UIL, see what other people had to say. So I'm definitely happy to be here. I look upon my past in UIL very fondly. It was a great experience. I mean, a lot of hard work went into it, but in the end, it was all worth it for sure. Um, so I would encourage anyone who is currently doing UIL and that enjoys it to work at it. Um, I would say it definitely opened doors for me, and I think it continues to open doors for a lot of students out there. I would also look, you know, I would also look at other math competitions or other competitions in general. So I mentioned earlier the AMC and the AME. Those competitions also are really, really good. I would like to mention one resource in particular, the Art of Problem Solving, also called AOPS, AOPS. Definitely check that out if you are interested in math, or if you, or for example, for you, if you have students that are interested in math. I think in particular for advanced students, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, I haven't really like used it since I was probably a junior or sorry, a senior in high school. That's an excellent resource. Math opened a lot of doors for me. I mean, I always enjoyed math. I thought it was really cool. Science as well. So for me, I mean, I really can't say anything bad. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot, so it came very natural to me. So if there are other students out there who feel the same way, doing UIL, doing AMC and AME and similar things, can open a lot of doors for you too. So stick with it, and make sure to like look for other people, look online, look at your competitions, talk to people, and try to see what they're doing too, because I'm sure they have a lot of good ideas. You can't do everything on your own. I certainly couldn't have without the help of my collaborators, fellow students, and my coach. So definitely try to do that. Um, and I guess good luck. I mean, it's tough. It's tough out there. So sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but you have to be prepared to be lucky. So I guess that's all I have to say. I would like to say more, but I guess that's enough for now.
Hey, it's been great. It's been great. And let me tell you something. Your name's etched in the history books. In the archives, there's that name, Wesley Runnels, and it's so impressive, those results. And what you've done is you've given us a face, some insight, some personality, and shared your story. And I can't tell you how appreciative I am of that.
Well, I'm very happy to do it.
And who knows? You may come across this channel again. If you ever come back to Texas or something like that, we'll find some excuses to get you on here. I do want to say
Sure.
this: if you're ever in the Houston area, you got my number, you got my email. you're ever in the Houston area, man, drop me a line, man. I think I would have so much fun treating you to lunch and just talking some UIL talk, man. And you're a very fascinating personality, so I think that would be a lot of fun.
I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you, Wesley, and I wish you the best of luck and farewell. Farewell.
Cool. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Cool. Bye.
Wow, what a fascinating young man. That was thoroughly enjoyable. The 2014 Calculator State Champion, the 2013 Number Sense and Science State Champion, along with the top physics scores, Mr. Wesley Runnels, Class 5A from Science Engineering Magnet School in Dallas, Texas. That was a true joy. Now let me take a moment and ask you, if you enjoy this sort of material, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell. It really helps out my channel. Go ahead and smash that like button and leave a comment below. I have plenty of great things in store for this channel. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo.